I will quickly summarize. Bharata reaches Rama. Various arguments are put to him. Jabali, an interesting name. It sounds like Jabal Ali. Jabali gives atheistic arguments, and he says, what karma, what is there? What are you bothered about your father? Just come there, rule the kingdom, etc. Rama puts him in place. Rama shows that he is not happy with this kind of atheist arguments. And then Vashishta comes to the defense of Jabali. Vashishta speaks out and says, no, Jabali is not like this. He is out of affection for you. He is speaking these words. Rama is also aware of that. So that whole discussion happens. Then there's an interesting verse going right into chapter 112. So we will start with 112 and we'll catch up with the rest of the verses later. So in 112, summarizing quickly, there's a beautiful verse that comes up. See, there is, in this world, normally, when it comes to something as big as even small things, people tend to fight with each other. And within brothers, there's very often very many examples where people have discord and disagreement and a lot of difficulty. Now, here, two brothers are fighting again. Rama and Bharata are fighting, but it's a different type of a fight altogether. One is saying, no, you have to become king. Another is saying, no, you have to become king. This is a rare fight. Nobody ever gets to see. So the great Munis are surprised by seeing this greatness of these two brothers. And therefore they say, Tam apratima tejobhyam. Apratima tejobhyam is never before. Yes, their pratima, their murti, their personality is tejobhyam. Unparalleled, uncomparable lustre of these two people. Bhratrabhyam Romaharshanam. By seeing this particular exchange, they had horripilations. Is it possible? If it is not for the Lord, this is not possible. Therefore, seeing that, they were so surprised. Vismitaha. Vismita is they are amazed. Sangamaha, that whole association, whoever had come there, Preksha, having seen Samaveta, Harshayaha, they were all so happy that we have had the good fortune of being there in this audience, all the sadhus who were there. Now, the sadhus list is not small. It's a big list. We'll know why it is big a little later. So they were really, these sadhus, they don't come here for some small funny entertainment. Yes, just like suddenly you'll see a big traffic jam. You don't know what is the traffic jam about. Then you will see a little further down, you will see one car, there is a small accident. Two cars are parked on the side. The traffic jam is caused by all these fellows who are driving so slowly so that they are seeing what's happening to those two cars. They are so interested that the traffic jam is caused by that. If it was somebody needs help, that's a different thing. But this is just curiosity. So these are sadhus, are not people who have come there to look to see, oh, two cars are dashing each other. Let's see what's happening. No, they are great personalities and understanding the greatness of Rama and Bharata, and that's why they are standing in this place. So Govindaraja in his beautiful, no, it is not Govindaraja, Ramayana Bhavadeepa, which is by a Madhva scholar, he is saying, Bhratrabhyam, Bhratroho, seeing these brothers, showing this brotherly relationship. Pradanyat Udbhayoktihi, Ubhayoktihi, of these two people, Pradanyat, to see how beautifully they have brought out what is the epitome of brotherhood, how brothers should deal. So the rishis were very, very surprised seeing that. And then Antarhita Munigana Siddhascha. Okay, was it only the Munis that were there? No. There were many others who were Antarhita, who were not visible to anybody. So they were there, gallery, balcony seat in a cinema theatre. So they were from the balcony seat, they were seeing. Now what did these invisible rishis do? Suddenly they heard a voice coming from there that will come up shortly. So then, from them, it says, Sadanyo Yasya Putrau. In Tamil, Avan Tandai Ennotran Kol Enum Sol is being used many times to say that who's the father, who's the fortunate father of these great sons. So sons should be such that police is not calling and say, who is the father of this rascal? Instead, who is the great father of these sons? Seeing the Rama and Bharata deal in such a wonderful manner. Sadanyo Yasya Putrau. That guy is most fortunate whose sons these are. Dvau Dharmagnyau. Oh, why are they fortunate? Why is the father so fortunate? First, they are Dharmagnyau. They know knowledge, and Dharma Vikramaihi. Apart from knowing knowledge, they know how to implement it. Vikrama is what is their strength. Just as Bharata earlier at a different segment, he says, our family, the strength of our family is the fact that we follow Dharma, is the fact that we adhere to Satya. So here, the Rishis are saying, Dharma Vikramaihi, that their greatness is the fact that they are following Dharma. That is their greatness. Then, Shrutva Vayam Hi Sambhasham. And then they say, and we are fortunate. Dasharatha is fortunate because he has sons like this. We are fortunate that we had the opportunity to hear the Sambhashanam like that. Just as when the Gita was being heard, the great few personalities who got the opportunity to hear that actual Samvadam, Ivam Adbhutam, Roma Harshanam, Samvadam, that verse in the last Bhagavad Gita, Sanjay is concluding with those statements. So like that, the Rishis are saying, Shrutva Vayam Hi Sambhasham Ubayoho Sprihayamahe. Of both of these, Sprihayame Nijamane Sprihahina. To say that may my mind actually develop Spriha, affection for Shakti Buddhihina. This is prayer to the Guru, that may I actually get attachment to you. So here the word Spriha is being used. Ubayoho Sprihayamahe. Those great Siddhas and the Charanas who are from the heavenly planets, who have all come there to witness this, they are saying, after hearing this conversation, we have lost our heart to Rama. This conversation is so attractive. And I think all of us should also pray to Rama, pray to Bharata, that by seeing this wonderful discussion that's happening between these two brothers, we develop the kind of affection for Rama and Bharata, that our minds are constantly absorbed in these wonderful pastimes of Ramayana. On hearing that dialogue, we are deeply drawn towards them. This is Govindaraja. These two sons of King Dasharatha, who was fortunate to have these practitioners of righteousness and whose strength is Dharma. This is Govindaraja's commentary. Translation there. Thereafter, hosts of rishis, desiring the speedy destruction of Ravana, those rishis who were there, they also make this request to Bharata. Grahyam Ramasya Vakyam Te. So those celestials are saying, hey Bharata, accept Grahyam Ramasya Vakyam Te. Accept these words that have been spoken by Rama. Because earlier Rama tells him, there is no point, I have to fulfill my father's words and I am not going to budge from that under any circumstance. We will see this being repeated, because Bharata is giving an update to Bharadwaja Muni when he goes and meets him. At that time we will hear who says what and what was Rama's stance, which he communicates to Vashishta and to Bharata in front of everybody who is there. So, Grahyam Ramasya Vakyam Te Pitaram Yadi Avekshase. If you actually respect your father, because Rama's words are directly respecting your father. If you want to follow what your father wants, then listen to Ramasya Vakyam Te. Listen to these words of Rama. Yes? So this, the great Siddhas and Charanas and the Rishis themselves have given approval. So then we think, very nice, because they have told Bharata will abide and agree. Yes? But then what happens? So Rama was very happy when he saw the Rishis were making this statement. So Rama was gladdened and he paid his respects to them very cheerfully. But then Bharata is again speaking to Rama and he says, listen, All these rishis have said, but you see, our tradition is the only eldest brother is ruling. Bhaiya वापस शुरू हो गया. He is not ready to let go. This is the great determination of Rama, of Bharata. So we see, when it comes to this kind of bhakti, unless we are determined and we are pursuing the Lord, we are not going to get what we actually desire. If we understand our goal and desire our eternal well-being, it's not such an easy thing. We need to be very determined in pursuing that. So he is again starting this. He offers obeisances to Rama, and he says, I don't have the ability to take care of this kingdom by myself. Do I have any strength? Does it in any way compare? This he speaks earlier. He says, like, you are the horse, I am Gada. You are, I'm a small bird, you are the actual eagle or the kite. He makes various such wonderful comparisons to say that I am simply infinitesimal, I'm small, I'm incapable of doing anything. So when he mentions this to all our relatives, warriors, friends, everybody is seeking to see you. I don't want to go empty-handed from here. So he says, please accept this kingdom, bring about stability. You are the powerful one who has power enough to govern this world. So please accept it. And saying that, he falls at the feet of Rama, after these words. So Rama then consoles him. And there is a beautiful section here. Rama takes him in his arms. And then, let me read Govindaraja's commentary there. This is a very important one. Just a sec, sorry. What verse is that? 15. So, Rama's brother, Bharata, was dark blue in complexion, and his eyes resembled lotus petals. And he had the voice of an excited swan. Rama personally took him on his lap and spoke the following words, which is basically a sign of endearment. And if you have actually tried, there are many times, even now for the fun of it, I sit on my mother's lap. She is 75, 78 at this point in time. Is she going to be able to take the weight? Naturally, if you see, our thighs have the kind of strength. I don't actually put my full weight on her at this age. But, sitting on an elder's lap is a sign of endearment. Here, Rama is calling Bharata, giving him an embrace and making him sit on his lap. This is Govindaraja's commentary, which is very interesting and very beautiful to read in this section. He says, surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead never fails. Yes? It will accomplish its result. Previously, the Devas had surrendered to him, and the Lord began to grant their desires. So the Lord appeared. So first, who asked him for benedictions? The Devas had asked. So Devas had asked, and the Lord arrived here. And therefore, he wished to grant the result of Bharata's surrender. So later, what is the Lord doing? Bharata has surrendered. So he wants to propitiate Bharata for the surrender and the determination that he is showing. Yes? So then Rama comforted and embraced Bharata to help him tolerate the delay. Bharata is saying, I cannot live without you. I can't breathe without you. So this separation, so how is he going to alleviate this separation? Just as when it comes to the gopis, they say, when there is separation and there is separation in love and separation, then the body tends to get heated up. So here, the Lord is, if you see Kaikeyi, Sumitra tells Kaikeyi and explains to her that he's explaining to her that don't worry, Chandra, we belong to the Surya Vamsha, and Chandra will come, and in the night he will shower his cool rays, just like a father of a child will come and embrace him happily, give him a cooling embrace. In a similar manner, Rama is representing that to Bharata, because Rama now represents Dasharatha at this point in time. So by touching the transcendental body of Rama, Bharata became greatly nourished. Tushtihi, Pushtihi, Kshutapayu, Anugasam. Another verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. nourished in every way. So Bharata is nourished by Rama with that embrace. And to indicate this, Bharata is described as dark blue in complexion, with eyes like lotus petal and a voice like an excited swan. His voice has been compared to that of an excited swan to indicate extreme respect Bharata had for Rama. Yes? So, when that happened, he is so happy that Rama is giving him that embrace. The loveliness of his voice indicates that Bharata was like a swan, because Nayatra Hamsa Niramanti Ushikshayaha, that verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where they say that the swans don't go to the garbage bin. You will not find, you go, say, even in Middle East, you see crows. But say you go to India, where there's a lot of crows that are there, and rarely you see the swans. Swans don't come by very easily. It's rare to see them. And where will you see them? You will see them in scenic lakes, clean, big spaces which look pristine. The water is like pristine, clean, in a beautiful scenic places. That's where swans live. Where do the crows live? You generally find them in the garbage bin, or there is a dead bandicoot or a rat. They'll be picking on it, or another dead animal, and they'll be eating on a dead dog. So crows are very, very much carrion and garbage eaters. Yes, in many ways. So the devotee should never be like that. The devotee should be like the swan, where he is able to separate the milk from the water and take the sara. So here Bharata is being compared therefore to the swan, and the loveliness of his voice indicates that he was like a swan, constantly enjoying the touch of the hands of Rama. But then he wondered, then why do you want to keep me away from here? Yes, if you actually love me this much, then why do you want me to stay away? So then Rama is explaining that. Govindaraja has added this, just as Vishwanath Chakravarti many times in the Bhagavad Gita or the other commentaries. You'll see he's adding extra conversations to bring relevance to the next verse. So in the next verse, Rama is saying, my dear child, you think you don't have the ability, but I know you have the ability. Now, how will you manage that? You have fantastic friends, counselors and ministers, and you have Vashishta and all these great people. And when in doubt, they are always there. Take their advice always at any point in time. And with that advice, you're going to be formidable. Nobody can do anything to you. So, he says the moon might lose its splendor. The snow might abandon Himalayas. The ocean may overstep its shores. But I shall not forsake the promise made by father. This is a very important verse in Ramayana, and which is quoted in many other places after that, to show Rama's determination with regard to the father's vow. Yes, and how determined Rama was in that connection. So, let me see. So this is a quotable quote from Ramayana. So we will pick this up when we come back in the next. So then he is saying, look at Rama's kindness, which pops straight out. Till now, he spoke about taking care of the kingdom. Kingdom is that important to him. And he says, how will you manage? You have the capability, don't worry about that. And you have all the mantris and the great counselors who are there. They will be able to guide you in the right direction, don't worry. How much worry he must have about the kingdom. But look at that. In one verse, he completed the kingdom. But in the same one verse, he is speaking to him. Natan manasi kartavyam vartayitva cha matrivat. He says, Natan manasi, you should conduct yourself with a good state of mind. Kartavyam vartayitva vartayitvayam. Yes, that you should deal with your mother, matritvam, in a very nice manner. Don't be harsh with her. Saying that, then he is saying, so please move. So Rama is chiding Bharata to move on. So at that time, Bharata tells him, no problem. I will take, I know, just as I am not ready to let go, I asked you this one more time, you are also not ready to let go of your brother. Therefore he says, oh Rama, then you do one thing. Put on these sandals and give them to me. Yes, and this is also seconded by Vashishta. Vashishta is telling him, please put these on and give this to Bharata. So there is this mention that O tormentor of enemies, O hero, wearing matted locks and bark garments, living on fruits and root, placing the responsibility of the kingdom on your sandals, and looking forward to your arrival, I shall reside outside the city for 14 years. So he's saying, based on your paduka, tava padukaya, kayor, yes, basis on your paduka, I am going to rule. Please invest your powers in them so that I will be able to rule. So then he says, but remember one thing, na drikshyami yaditvam, if I don't see you, tu pravekshyami hutashanaha. If after this 14 years, on day 1, after the 14 years, if I don't see you in Ayodhya, I will enter fire. Please remember that. So just as you are determined, I am very determined about my woe. So Rama says, made Badam iti tatastu. So Rama says, fine, I accept that. Then he is saying again, Mataram Rakshakaikeim Marosham Kurutam Prati. Don't show anger towards her. Marosham Kurutam Prati. Just one sec. So again, he's defending, reminding Bharata that he has to take care of his mother properly. Mataram raksha kaikeyi ma rosham kurutam prati. Don't show anger towards her. Look after her nicely. Then Rama is standing, placing his feet on the paduka. When he is placing his feet on the paduka is facing east. They say, Vastu has, time and again we are seeing Vastu come up in Ramayana, and generally facing east for any activity to do. Even if you have to sit in your office, see if you will able to nudge your space around to see if you can have an east facing seat. It's considered very, very auspicious to take that. So Rama, when he is standing on the paduka, he is facing east. So our people were very direction sensitive from that perspective. So the Rama is paid his respects to all the great rishis and Vashishta and the ministers and everybody that had come. He paid his respect to the mothers. Yes, and he specifically went and offered obeisances to the mothers. Mothers were not able to say anything, they were fully choked up. So seeing this situation, what did Rama do? Rama paid obeisances to them, and then he entered his hut with tears in his eyes, but he entered his hut saying, it's time for you to go. These are tough decisions, just like Rama had to tell Sumantra to move on when that particular situation had come. You remember, he chided Sumantra to move on quickly. So we move on to chapter 113. We just completed chapter 112. So that's like a quick, rather a slow, long summary of what happened in the last chapter. So now that Rama has already gone in, so Bharata takes a U-turn and then moves on. But now is Bharata sobbing and crying? No. Aruroha ratam Hrishta Hrishtaha. He got onto his Ratha, but how did he get on? With a happy state of mind. Why? Because now he is holding Rama's paduka on his head, and he is very, very happy to do that. Vashishta, Jabali and all the great rishis are moving in front, and then they take a pradakshina of Chitrakuta as they are heading out. And when they are heading out, there's Valmiki is describing that the entire army, the full praja, whoever was there, everybody is moving in that direction. So Govindaraja is making this comment as part of his commentary. He says, there is a verse which says, they did pradakshina of this thing, of Chitrakuta, and proceeded east towards the charming river Mandakini. So the question is, the great mighty mountain Chitrakuta, why did Chitrakuta become mighty? And why did Mandakini become charming? He says both of these got their glory because Rama came there and stayed there. This is the kind of Rasika that Govindaraja is there. He's attributing the greatness of both these, the river and the mountain, to the fact that Rama was there. On their way back, first he beholds Bharadwaja's ashrama. I am seeing two versions of this. The Gita Press Gorakhpur version says that on the way back they seem to have taken a different route. So it means Bharadwaja had two ashramas and he was in this ashrama at that point in time, or something like that. I'm not still very clear about that. But anyway, so he sees Bharadwaja's ashrama and he's heading towards Bharadwaja. And then Hrishto Bharadwajo Vakyam Abravit, seeing him. If you remember, when Bharata first met him, Bharata had to somehow win over Bharadwaja's trust. And for that, there were various rishis who supported him, that Bharadwaja was asking him questions. Bharadwaja didn't show too much affection to him, so much so that Bharata had to ask him that I request that I just have one good fortune. I want one great good fortune and wealth from you. Can you please look at me with happiness, with a sense of happiness? Please, just look at me with happy eyes. That's all I want. But now, as he is coming, Hrishto Bharadwajo, it is showing that Bharadwaja already knows the greatness of Bharata. He knows what he has accomplished. He knows the mood of Bharadwaja. He knows the service attitude of Bharadwaja. Of Bharata. Bharadwaja knows the service attitude of Bharadwaja. Therefore, he is very happy receiving him back. Api Kritya Kritam Tata. Api Kritya Kritam. Whatever you wanted to achieve, what you wanted to accomplish. Krita Kritascha Bharata. This also comes in Bhagavad Gita. So Kritya Kritam Tata. Oh dear one. The word Tata is a term of endearment. So he's saying, Tata, has your purpose been achieved? Ramena cha samagatam. Did you get the opportunity to meet Rama? And then Bharata is replying that Pitu pratignyam tameva palayishyami tatvataha. This was Rama's response. Bharata is communicating to Bharadwaja. He says, Pitur pratignyam tameva. My job is most definitely, I have to fulfill my father's promise. Palayishyami, मैं उसका पालन करूंगा. I will fulfill it. Tatvataha, in truth, as he told, as he wanted, no patli gali. Yes, I'll fulfill it. Ete prayachya sanghrishta paduke hemapushite. That paduka, which is hemapushite, which is gold laden, that paduka, ete prayachya samhrishta. So I very happily now received this paduka, and this paduka is what is going to rule. Yogakshema kare tava. So he says this paduka is going to take care of Yogakshema of Ayodhya. Yes, this Yogakshema is a very, very important word to work towards. Bhagavan in Gita is giving us this assurance in 9:22. He says, Ananyaschintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Ananyaha chintayanto mam. For one who with undivided attention is worshipping me. Ananyaha chintayanto mam. Ye janaha, that person, paryupasate, he is doing upasana, he is doing worship of me. Tesham nityabhiyuktanam. He is nityabhiyuktanam. He is always engaged in me. Can there be a better description of this verse than Bharata? And then, what will the Lord do to a devotee like this? To a devotee like this, Lord says, I take care of Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. Very important verse, very beautiful verse. So I want to read a few more points. Srila Prabhupada's translation to this verse. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. So Prabhupada in the purport explains what they lack and what they have. What they lack is the word yuj or yoga. Srila Prabhupada is using. Just a sec. Is Prabhupada is using to say those who want to actually come in contact with the Lord. That is yoga. Yes. So that's a very beautiful thing. Normally we think yoga means जो पैसा हमारा पास नहीं है, जो पैसे की इच्छुक है, वो भगवान के पास जाएगा. So then Krishna will give him money. What I don't have, give me what I don't have and preserve what I have. And how much ever I have in my bank balance, Krishna will preserve nicely. This is the material understanding that we may have. So Srila Prabhupada is saying here, such activities are auspicious and full of spiritual potencies. That is, he says, Ananyas chintayat tomam nityabhiyuktanam. Prabhupada is defining who is this? One who is unable to live for a moment without Krishna consciousness, cannot but think of Krishna 24 hours a day. Being engaged in devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, and rendering other services, cultivating friendship and surrendering fully. Sakyam Atmanivedanam. So what is the verse? Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. Such activities are all auspicious and full of spiritual potencies which make the devotee perfect in self-realization. So that is only desire, that his only desire is to achieve. So when we talk about the pure devotee, the Guru, so then we say, Sakshadharitvena samasta shastre uktastata bhavyata eva saddhihi. Why? Why is Guru respected as Sakshadhari? Kintu prabhorya priya eva tasya vande guru shri charanaravindam. Because Kintu prabhorya, do you have anything else to do? Is this the only thing you do? Which is think of Krishna? Yes, that's the appreciation we have for the Guru. That there is nothing else, no personal business, no other agenda other than Krishna. Such a devotee undoubtedly approaches the Lord without difficulty. This is called yoga. So the yoga is the process of doing devotion by which one gets to meet yoga, kshemam, vahamyaham. So what he wants to come together with, that is come together and meet the Lord. The Lord says, I will provide him that. And by the mercy of the Lord, such a devotee never comes back to his material condition. And kshema refers to the merciful protection of the Lord. So we say, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshamam. Please protect me. Asking for the protection. So the Lord helps the devotee achieve Krishna consciousness by yoga, and then he becomes fully Krishna conscious. The Lord protects him from falling down. So Prabhupada gives, and the Acharyas give this really wonderful point here. Govindaraja says yoga refers to acquiring what is needed, and Kshema refers to securing what has thus been acquired. So Govindaraja gives what looks like a neutral statement which will fit both these connotations. So I move on to the next verse. Raghavaha Prang Mukha Stitaha. So Raghava, Rama, facing eastward, he stands on the Paduka, puts his feet there. This is being explained by Bharata now to Bharadwaja. He is telling him that Ayodhya meva gacchami. He says, now I am going to Ayodhya. Grihitva paduke shubhe. By taking this most auspicious Paduka. Just imagine if we get the opportunity to actually touch that actual Paduka that Rama had on his feet. Yes. Grihitva paduke shubhe, which is going to give us our yoga and kshema, what we lack, what we need, whether it is the material aspirations or whether it is our eternal spiritual aspiration of going back home, back to Godhead, that the Lord will provide that yoga, will provide us that bhakti, and by kshema, he protects us and retains us in that level so that Mahatrayate Mahato Bhayat. Yes, that I protect you, I take you away from the greatest fear, which His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explains as saying that this is the greatest fear is that we fall down back into the material condition. So the Lord here, that Paduka gives us that yoga and Shema, and therefore Bharata is referring to it as Paduke Shubhe, those Padukas of the Lord, or the sandals of the Lord. Etat Chitram Nara Vyagra Sheila. So this is Bharadwaja's comment. He says, Etam Chitram Nara Vyagra Na Etat Chitram. He said, this is not surprising at all. He said, this is not surprising at all that you have got a good fortune like this. Because what are you? Sheila Vrittavatam Vara. You are a man with great character. Yes, and you practice the tenets of Dharma, and you are most noble. Vara. Yes. Yadartam. This is a much used Tamil word within the Brahminical context. So Yadartama, they say that. Yadartam means this is something that you naturally deserve. Tishthetu. Yes, this is going to naturally come to you. How will this come to you? All this good fortune, how will this come to you? Nimno, Nimna Ganam Yata Ganga, just as river. Nimno, Srishtam, Iva Udakam. Just as a river water will automatically flow from a higher place into a lower place. Like that, this good fortune will automatically flow to you. This is one artha. This is the artha one particular scholar has given. But Govindaraja's commentary seems to say, represent Nimna as a pond. You see, when it comes to a pond, if you normally put a water into something, you just dig a pit and you pour water into it. Very soon it will just boom, get sucked in and dry out. But when it comes to a pond has enough water around that area so that it can't get sucked easily. Apart from that, it also has moss on the side. It's got various ways by which pond will be able to retain that water in it. So the other interpretation is given to say that just as a pond, water in a pond is naturally retained, in a similar manner you are like a pond, on all the good qualities never go away from you, they are naturally retained in you. Both of these are wonderful ways to look at. One, water flows from a higher level to a lower level, like that. All the good, because of the good qualities, because of your nature, yes, this is automatically all these good things are going to flow towards you. You are going to flow towards the right direction. And Govindaraja is giving this pond related example. So, in this connection, there is another verse. Yes, yasti Bhagavat Bhakti Bhagavat Bhaktir Bhagavat Akinchana Bhagavat Akinchana Sarvair Gunair Tatra Samasate Suraha Harava Abhaktasya Kuto Mahat Guna Manorathena Sate Dhavato Bahi. To say, for one, Sarvaihi Gunaihi Tatra Samathase Sura, somebody who is actually Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana, one who is Akinchana, not attached to anything else. But he is attached to only one thing, with Bhagavad Bhakti. In that state, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana, Sarvaihi Gunaihi Tatra Samasate Sura, all the great qualities that the Suras, that the demigods have, are automatically going to come into that person. So here we see the quality of Bharata is that he is Bhagavat Bhakti Akinchana. There is nothing else he cares about. He is completely attached to Rama. In that state, whatever good qualities are automatically going to come to him, they are going to be retained by him, just as Govindaraja says a pond will retain. So Prabhupada gives all the demigods and their exalted qualities such as religion, knowledge, renunciation become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, if we develop that bhakti, because that's the most difficult quality, when you gain that, the rest of it is like byproduct. Just as if you buy a particular product that you want, you go to IKEA and purchase some furniture. So will you ask him, will you pack it and give it with a box? No, that's going to come. It's a concomitant factor. It's going to come along. It behooves that it is going to be packed and ready to be transported without any damage. In an exact manner, if you actually go and so you don't pay separate price for the cardboard box. You paid the price for the whatever furniture you purchased. In a similar manner, if we are tannaha vikriyamananam, just as Pingala is saying, I will buy the Lord with my love and affection, with my devotion for Him. Here, if one actually purchases lolupasya, that one wants to actually gain prema for the Lord, and if one is in a position to actually get that unalloyed devotion, then all these other qualities which even the demigods have are not naturally going to devotion. Whatever big material qualities he may have, it is all completely useless. Srila Prabhupada makes this point. And then he quotes Krishnadas Kaviraj here from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So here he says Adi Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita chapter 8. There is a description of some of the qualities of the devotee. For example, Haridas Thakur is described as being well behaved, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous and grave. In addition, he spoke very sweetly. His endeavors were very pleasing. He was always patient and he respected everyone. He always worked for everybody's benefit, and his mind was free of duplicity, and he was completely devoid of all malicious activities. Therefore, these are original qualities of Krishna, and when one becomes a devotee, these become automatically manifest in one. So, if one becomes a devotee of Krishna, if one becomes a devotee of Rama, these qualities have to automatically manifest in us. And till the time it doesn't manifest, it means we are still working on that particular thing, and we may have to put specific effort to see that we weed out the unnecessary anukulyasya sankalpaha pratikulyasya varjanam, throw out what is not suitable, and keep accepting those qualities that are good. And in the process of this building, weeding out and acceptance of the right things, and throwing out what is not this thing, that is how we are actually going to make that great change in our lives, so that we become qualified to actually go back home, back to Godhead. Krishnadas Kaviraj, the commentator of Chaitanya Charitamrita, says that all good qualities become manifest in the body of a Vaishnava, and the only presence of these good qualities can one distinguish a Vaishnava from a non-Vaishnava. So when you see this, then you need to understand that this person is a Vaishnava. Kaviraj lists 26 qualities, and he says: 1. Very kind to everybody. 2. Does not make anyone his enemy. 3. Is truthful. 4. Is equal to everybody. 5. No one can find any fault in him. Woo, that's a high order. 6. He is magnanimous. 7. He is mild. 8. He is always clean. 9. He is without possessions. 10. He works for everybody's benefit. 11. He is very peaceful. 12. He is always surrendered to Krishna. 13. He has no material desires. 14. He is very meek. 15. He is steady. 16. He controls his senses. 17. He does not eat more than required. 18. He is not influenced by the Lord's illusory energy. 19. He offers respects to everybody. 20. He does not desire any respect for himself. 21. He is very grave. 22. He is merciful. 23. He is friendly. 24. He is poetic. We see the kind of language that Valmiki is using, and therefore it puts him in that zone. He is an expert and he is silent. These are qualities that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is quoting in this connection. So moving on, then Bharadwaja is making this comment, and it's a beautiful comment. Amritas sa mahabahu. Amrita, he never died. That great strong-armed person, he never died. Oh, who is he talking about? Who died? It was only Dasharatha who is gone, yes? Pita Dasharathas Tava. This father, Dasharatha of yours, he never died. Huh? What's he saying? Yasyatvam idrisha putro. Because he has a son like you. Whatever are his good qualities and traits have actually passed on, and they are living still with you. Yasya tvam idrishah putro dharmagyo dharmavatsalaha. Because you are dharmagya, knowledgeable about dharma, dharma vatsalaha, one who is devoted to and one who nourishes dharma. So because he has a son like you, he is actually never died. He is Amrita. Then Bharata goes, folds his palms, clasping the feet of Bharadwaja, circumambulates him, yes, and seeks his permission to leave. And then they cross the two rivers and then proceed to Ayodhya. Seeing Ayodhya silent and desolate takes us to the next chapter, which is 114, which we will be again seeing today. So today we are doing 3 chapters. Some of these chapters are smaller. Any questions, comments till now? Prabhu's, Mataji's. Hare Krishna. Okay, I move on. So the next chapter, I'm just going to read through. I'm not getting into Sanskrit verses. I've just picked up some of the core points and I'm going to read through this particular chapter. So in this chapter we see the poetic capabilities of Valmiki. This comes out very beautifully. So those who are making notes specifically about, if one of the youth can make notes about the poetic beauty of Valmiki Ramayana, you will get a lot of points in this particular segment. First, he is describing the deep soothing sound of the chariot as it's running. Yes, this is like, he's setting the mood and the theme. So Bharata's chariot is heading in that direction. And then he says, when he looks at Ayodhya, Ayodhya looks dark as the night. Ayodhya seems to be full of cats and owls, dark. There are no people walking around. Elephants are not active. In fact, he compares it and he says it looks like the moon that has been swallowed. Grahana, the moon is swallowed by Rahu. So he says Ayodhya looks like that. And he says this looks like a mountain stream which has gone scant. And because of that, all the birds have become thin and emaciated. And many of those big fish and crocodiles are dead because of the heat of the sun. So Ayodhya looks like that. Then he says it appears like a blazing fire, an Agni that had been lit for Yajna. But as one of the Ahutis, they poured some yogurt into it. And because of that, the Agni that has gone out completely got expunged. Ayodhya is looking like that. Then he is saying Ayodhya resembled an army which has been defeated. Soldiers whose armors are broken, whose elephants, horses and chariots and flags have all been broken. And the heroes have been destroyed, fallen in a state of crisis in a great battle. So these are all Kshatriya orientated examples, resembling the waves of an ocean which are coming up like huge, so much foam and suddenly, but when the wind goes down, how the ocean becomes suddenly silent. So what looked like a big foamy wave is suddenly coming to silence, resembling how a young cow which is missing the company of a bull, though it has been sent into a pasture land which is full of grass, but the young cow is not eating, is just looking around. Yes, that is the state of Ayodhya. Just like there is a beautiful necklace, we see many of these necklaces that are advertised, and you see if the necklace has no stones in it, if the stones have all fallen, how will the necklace be? There is no luster, it is just a piece of gold, maybe attractive, but doesn't have the beauty that it should actually have with the brilliant jewel. And he says Ayodhya is now looking like a star that has been pushed out of its orbit and has come and fallen on the earth. And he compares that star to Shine Punye Martyalokam Vishanti Evam Trai Dharma Manu Prapannaha. In the Gita, Krishna is saying when the Punya becomes small, Martyalokam, you come back to the material world. You can Brahma Bhona, you can go to Brahma Loka also, but you will have to come back down. So that is the comparison he makes. This planet seems to have, just as a planet which has lost its piety comes and hits the earth and is lying there, like that Ayodhya seems to be, he is making a comparison of Ayodhya to that. And then he is saying Ayodhya resembles like a cloud that has been, big cloud that covers the sky, which means you can't see any of the stars, you can't see anything. Why am I out there if I can't see those? And then he says Ayodhya is looking like a wine, not wine, a vine, which is a creeper. The creeper has beautiful flowers on one end. Yes, and there are bees that are around it, but it looks like one half of the creeper has been burnt in a forest fire. So, though Ayodhya is actually supposed to be resplendent, but it is in a sad state because of the forest fire. What all comparisons he's done beautifully. And then he says, where you find resembling a broken water tank whose water has been used up and has sunk into the ground. Yes, an empty tank. How pathetic it looks. And it resembles a bowstring. So sometimes you see a string that's fallen on the floor. Oh, what string is that? Oh, this was a bowstring. Now this string is useless. Nobody will even touch the string. But when this had been in the bow, what an important thing it is. How it makes that particular instrument work. So Ayodhya looks like it is useless without the bow, like Rama being around like a string lying there. Or like a young weak horse that was ridden by a great hero when he went to war. But seeing that this is young and not a very strong horse, it has been suddenly abandoned, left to be there. Or like a slender bodied woman who has been forbidden by her husband to go to L'Oreal and buy makeup and go and get the latest Rasasi or some perfume like that. I don't know. I don't get into this kind of stuff. Trying to give some bad examples out there. So, because the husband is unhappy, how the lady is not interested in decorating like herself in a similar manner. Today, possibly she'd be more encouraged to decorate herself. I mean, she or he, either ways. So, these are the examples that are being given. And then he says, just as the sun's radiance that has been covered by heavy clouds, and you can't see those suns in the sun as the rainy season is setting in a similar manner, Ayodhya is in a state of forlorn sadness because Rama is not there. These are the beautiful poetic descriptions that Valmiki is giving. And then he says, Bharata, as Bharata is going in, Bharata is making the statement he is seeing, and he says, I don't hear. You look at what is the mood and ethos that they want to retain in their kingdom, that they want a kingdom that is flourishing. They want a set of people who are happy. They want music. They want happiness to be seen in the way people dress themselves, in the perfumes that people wear, in the garments that people wear. All of this is being bought out. He says, I don't hear the musical instruments that I used to hear in the past, and I don't see the intoxicating smell of some of the drinks that they are going to have, or the fragrance of the flowers, or the incense aguru being burnt everywhere in this thing, or sandalwood. I don't smell these things. People don't have time for these things because they are no more interested. Rama is not here. The clatter of excellent chariots, I don't hear. The neighing of the horses, I don't hear. The trumpets of the elephants which are in rut. The men don't seem to be going around with variegated flowers. There seem to be no festival celebrated in this place. Kada na kalute brata mahotsava ivagataha. So then he says, when will that brother of ours come? And when as he comes, he is the actual festival, he is the actual celebration for Ayodhya. He will bring back life to Ayodhya. When will that great brother of mine come back? Like the summer, when the summer is beating you, when that big cloud comes with the first shower of rains, how happy is everybody? Like that, Rama is supposed to bring us that happiness. When will that happiness come to us with Rama? So Bharata entered the palace of his father, bereft of the king, like a cave that has been Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Prayers. Somebody is exiting for an emergency. Prayers. I hope everything is well. So Bharata entered his father's palace, which is now like a cave, which does not have a lion anymore. So with this, we actually complete today's segment. We have completed 3 chapters for the day.